Welcome! I hope you've enjoyed that penny whistle tunes as much as I did. That was our own Chandler Douglas playing that melody of traditional Irish songs. My name is Pine Tree, the bourgeois of the Northwest Company, coming to you live tonight from sunny Seattle, Washington. If you wish, write into the chat and tell us where you are joining us from. This is our final campfire of the 2020 Remote Rendezvous. I've swapped my pelts for trade goods and supplies to get me through the winter back in the Pays de Non. Blankets, some hatchets for trade, a new bucket, a new knife, some needles, a new journal, and even some soap. And I certainly won't forget my coffee. We hope that you've enjoyed our previous campfires, and that you have if you haven't had a chance to catch them, they are posted on the Frontiers Camp YouTube channel, or you can find links to them from the Green Mountain Council Frontiers Camp website. It's been a very busy summer of skills, live fellowship, good food, and entertainment. We hope you've had fun, and you'll have lots to inspire you in the months before we meet together at Mount Norris in June of 2021. Now, before we go further, I wanted to tell you a little bit about that first image, a mural painted by Alfred Jacob Miller around 1858. It was originally sketched in 1837 when Miller attended his first rendezvous along Horse Creek near what is now Daniel, Wyoming, just west of the Continental Divide in the territory of the Shoshone. The aerial photo shows the site as it is these days. For the 1837 rendezvous, Thomas Fitzpatrick led the supply train up to the rendezvous, bound for trappers working for Pratt, Chouteau and Company, which was still commonly referred to as the American Fur Company. The supply train left from Independence, Missouri, including 30 wagons and 2 carts. Accompanying the train were Etienne Provost, Sir William Drummond Stewart, and Alfred Jacob Miller, arriving at Fort William, later known as Fort Laramie, along the North Platte in eastern Wyoming, arriving in June. Sir Drummond William Stewart was a wealthy Scotsman, and this was his 5th year attending the rendezvous. His interest in this event was as a tourist and sports hunter. He is responsible for recording the sites, he was responsible for bringing Alfred Jacob Miller, an artist, to this year's rendezvous for the purpose of recording the sights, people, and spectacle of this annual event on canvas. Stewart would afterwards take Miller to Scotland, where he commissioned him to paint large murals based on his field sketches. No other individual who attended the annual rendezvous ever left a more detailed written or visual description than did Miller. The supplies were offloaded from the wagons at Fort William and then taken to rendezvous using either carts or on pack animals. The pack train left Fort William for rendezvous on June 27th with about 45 men and 20 carts, arriving at the confluence of the Green River and the Horse Creek on July 18th. Now, the frontier was a new experience for Miller, and he came with eyes wide open to document what he observed. These are now the best record of what at that time really looked like, a valuable resource for all of us. We are all living through new experiences these days. I am going to challenge you to use your observation skills and see if you can document what this snapshot in time has been like for you. Be it a journal, sketches, a video, or photographs, it can serve as a way for you to share who you were and what you saw at this unique time in history. And make sure that you keep an eye on those clouds to document them. You can tell Clumsy Links about them the next time you see him. Now, you could see that fire was an important focal point in many of those paintings and in real life, providing for cooking, warmth, a gathering point, and security on the wild frontier. We don't mess around when it comes to fire at Frontiers Camp either. We like to be prepared, and we like to know we have options. To that end, Little Tree is going to share with us a demonstration of his fire starting prowess with a bow drill.
Good evening, everyone. It's me, Little Tree. Tonight, we start our campfire using a traditional friction fire method, known as the bow drill. There's a few different parts to a bow drill. The bottom, or fireboard, is made out of a softer wood. This is made out of poplar. Another name for poplar is aspen. The spindle is what rubs in the holes of the fireboard. It's made out of the same material as the fireboard, so this is also made out of poplar. The bow that I use has a little curve to it, and this is actually hardwood. It's much stronger, it doesn't flex, it won't break if I bend it a little bit like the poplar would. For me to hold the spindle into my fireboard, I have this palm stone, and you can see there's a little hole in it, and the top of the spindle actually spins in that hole as the bow moves back and forth. So tonight, we're going to show you how this works. I put down some birch bark first, and then a little bit of tinder. In this case, I use flax fiber, and that's what this material is here. It's got a really high oil content, so it burns pretty easy. I put that down under my fireboard, and then I'll place my spindle in my bow, but I don't have a string. Well, it just so happens that this summer I learned how to tie this woggle from Eagle Eyes. So I'm now going to take this apart and use this for my bow. There we go. Now I'll take my spindle, wind it into my string, like so. Back up here so you can see what's going on. Foot on the fireboard, and the palm stone over the spindle. Slowly cranking. And here we go. there's fire. As you can tell, that was no easy task. It took me a few times to get that fire going. Native Americans wouldn't do that every time. They developed a technology, using their resources, to carry coals over great distances, many days, to start their next fire. This is a bison horn. It has a plug fixed to the top, and inside is punky wood. Once my fire here burns down and I have a coal, I'll place the coal in here covered with more punky wood and plugged up. And that will travel lit for several days. I think we're ready. Deer antler makes for easy coal picking. Top those coals with more punky wood. Seal them in there. Plugged up. Here you go, pine tree.
Thanks, little tree. We did it. All right. That was a long carry of coals. I think you can see why perseverance, preparedness, and problem solving are hallmarks of our Frontiers Camp ethos. Now that we've got our fire started, we better get ourselves warmed up. If you're up for it, go ahead and stand up and join us for this next classic song. I'm sure that you'll recognize it.
Alouette, chantez alouette, alouette, je te plumerai.
Je te plumerai la tête,
Je te plumerai la tête,
et la tête,
et la tête,
alouette,
alouette, oh, alouette, chantez alouette, alouette, je te plumerai.
je te plumerai les yeux,
Je te plumerai les yeux,
et les yeux,
et les yeux,
et la tête,
et la tête,
alouette,
alouette, oh, alouette, chantez alouette, alouette, je te plumerai.
je te plumerai le bec,
Je te plumerai le bec,
et le bec,
et le bec,
et les yeux,
et les yeux,
et la tête,
et la tête,
alouette,
alouette, oh, alouette, chantez alouette, alouette, je te plumerai.
je te plumerai la bouche,
Je te plumerai le bouche,
et la bouche,
et la bouche,
et le bec,
et le bec,
et les yeux,
et les yeux,
et la tête,
et la tête,
alouette,
alouette, oh, alouette, chantez alouette, alouette, je te plumerai.
plumerai le cou.
Je te plumerai le cou.
Et le cou.
Et le cou.
Et la bouche.
Et la bouche.
Et le bec.
Et le bec.
Et les yeux.
Et les yeux.
Et la tête.
Et la tête.
Alouette.
Alouette. Wow. Alouette. Gentille alouette. Alouette. Je te plumerai.
Je te plumerai l'épaule.
Je te plumerai l'épaule.
Et l'épaule.
Et l'épaule.
Et le cou.
Et le cou.
Et la bouche.
Et la bouche.
Et le bec.
Et le bec.
Et les yeux.
Et les yeux.
Et la tête.
Et la tête.
Alouette.
Alouette. Oh, alouette, gentille alouette. Alouette, je te plumerai.
Je te plumerai les ailes.
Je te plumerai les ailes.
Et les ailes.
Et les ailes.
Et l'épaule.
Et l'épaule.
Et le cou.
Et le cou.
Et la bouche.
Et la bouche.
Et le bec.
Et le bec.
Et les yeux.
Et les yeux.
Et la tête.
Et la tête.
Alouette.
Alouette. Oh, alouette, gentille alouette. Alouette, je te plumerai.
Je te plumerai le dos.
Je te plumerai le dos.
Et le dos.
Et le dos.
Et les ailes.
Et les ailes.
Et l'épaule.
Et l'épaule.
Et le cou.
Et le cou.
Et la bouche.
Et la bouche.
Et le bec.
Et le bec.
Et les yeux.
Et les yeux.
Et la tête.
Et la tête.
Alouette.
Alouette. Oh, alouette, gentille alouette. Alouette, je te plumerai.
Je te plumerai le jambe.
Je te plumerai les jambes.
Et le jambe.
Et le jambe.
Et le dos.
Et le dos.
Et les ailes.
Et les ailes.
Et le pôle.
Et le pôle.
Et le cou.
Et le cou.
Et la bouche.
Et la bouche.
Et le bec.
Et le bec.
Et les yeux.
Et les yeux.
Et la tête.
Et la tête.
Alouette.
Alouette. Oh, alouette, gentille alouette. Alouette, je te plumerai.
Je te plumerai les pieds.
Je te plumerai les pieds.
Et les pieds.
Et les pieds.
Et le jambe.
Et le jambe.
Et le dos.
Et le dos.
Et les ailes.
Et les ailes.
Et la peau.
Et l'épaule.
Et le cou.
Et le cou.
Et la bouche.
Et la bouche.
Et le bec.
Et le bec.
Et les yeux.
Et les yeux.
Et la tête.
Et la tête.
Alouette.
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 Alouette. Oh, alouette, gentille alouette. Alouette, je te plumerai.
Voyageurs sure were a cheerful bunch. Thanks to Eel, Chandler Douglas, More Mountains, Little Tree, Quiet Fox, Snowy Owl, Gray Squirrel, Black Hawk, and of course Dancing Spirit and Weaver of Wisdom for joining me. That was helpful. Speaking of cheerful and helpful, that makes me think of the Scout Law. Each of those 12 points is a goal for every Scout to try and live up to every day. It's not always easy to do, but a Scout always tries. Tonight, you'll hear from the assistant majors of each of our 4-year group fur companies as they explain how we use the Scout Law as a framework during Frontiers Camp. First, we have Gray Squirrel, the assistant major of the Hudson's Bay Company, Woodsman.
Trustworthy. Tell the truth and keep promises. People can depend on you. At Frontiers Camp, we often speak of a code of honor in our words and our actions as a way to understand the value of trustworthiness and to complete tasks to the best of our ability. Loyal. Show that you care about your family, friends, scout leaders, school, and country. Scouts at Frontiers Camp are dedicated to their brigade and their company and accountable to them throughout the week. Helpful. Volunteer to help others without expecting a reward. We always have eyes watching at Frontiers Camp, and for those that go that extra mile, you might just find yourself eligible for the Free Trappers, our honor society.
Thanks, Gray Squirrel. Those 3 points are well suited to incoming woodsmen at our camp, and they each come to mind when I think of this next presenter. At Frontiers Camp, we draw from lots of resources and skills within our staff, crew, and scouts, and try to include lots of opportunities to see how the context of history and various ethnicities impacts our understanding of the world today. With an all-volunteer staff with varied backgrounds from all over the country, some staying with us for decades, we create some very long-lasting family relationships and are always happy to welcome back those staff crew and scouts who have since moved on. Tonight, we are delighted to hear from Gentle Dove, a dear friend and longtime crafts program and American Culture's Merit Badge counselor, to tell us a story we've sorely missed this past few years.
Viscaskar, welcome my friends. Come. I hear you've come to hear a story. So tonight I decided I'd tell you the story of Duncan Campbell in Fort Ticonderoga. The year is 1755 in Inverary, Scotland. Inverary is a town in Scotland that is located near Loch Fyne and at the base of Ben Cruachan. Duncan Campbell was walking near his castle and on a quiet evening when all of a sudden he was approached by a man with a torn and bloody kilt. The man said to him, "I have just been in a dispute in which I've killed another man. Please, sir, help give me shelter and hide me from my pursuers who are right behind me." Duncan Campbell thought for a minute and then decided he would give the man shelter. So he took him to the recesses of his castle and he hid the man. He went back out for his walk, and it was just in a short period of time after that he was approached by his kinsman. His kinsman informed him that his cousin had been killed by a man and they were in pursuit of him, and that he probably should have arrived shortly before them right where Duncan was. And Duncan had told them he had not seen him, and they went on their way continuing to look for the man. Later that evening, Duncan, as he laid in his bed and fell asleep, he was awoken, terrified by the ghost of his cousin, who said, "Inverary, Inverary, blood has been spilled, avenge my death." And the ghost faded away. Well, this left Duncan very unsettled. The next morning, he woke and he went to the person that he was hiding in the recesses of his castle, and he said, "You did not tell me it was my cousin that you had killed." And the gentleman said, "But Mr. Campbell, you have told me, you gave me your word that you would hide me." Duncan was at that point held by his honor and his word, because as a Scottish gentleman, he knew his word was his honor and he could not break his word. So he decided to hide the man at the base of Ben Cruachan. So he took the man to the base of Ben Cruachan and he hid him there. That night, once again, Duncan Campbell's cousin's ghost visited him once more. "Inverary, Inverary, blood has been spilled, avenge my death." And Duncan was so at this point shooken up, he just didn't know what to do. He could not go back to sleep the rest of the night. The ghost had faded away, and the next day he was, telling this person that he had to do something. He was forced by his word to keep him in shelter. He agreed that he would do that. On the third night, Duncan Campbell's ghost visited him once again yelling at the top of his lungs, "Inverary, Inverary, blood has been spilled, avenge my death." And Duncan said, "Cousin, I cannot, for I gave this man my word that I would hide him, and I cannot break my word." And his cousin said, "Very well. Remember, I will meet you for the last time at Ticonderoga, which is where you will meet your death." At that point, Duncan did not understand what the word Ticonderoga meant. It had no meaning to him whatsoever. He asked his kinsmen, he asked his friends, he asked fellow clans members, "Do you know what this word means?" And none of them knew what the word meant. 3 years later, Duncan joined the Black Watch. He was a second lieutenant and he was second in command. He had been sent to North America in charge of a group of men where they were to fight against the French at a fort called St. Louis. When they arrived, Duncan had been talking to a few of his men, and his men were very much aware of the fact about Duncan's cousin Ghost, who had visited him 3 times and had mentioned this Ticonderoga, and they knew that Fort Louis was also known by the Native Americans as Ticonderoga. But they did not want to tell Duncan this because they knew that it would make him very unsettled, and he was a very good commander. So the night before the battle, Duncan was visited the last time by his ghost. And his cousin again yelled, "Inverary, Inverary, blood has been spilled. I had asked you, cousin, to avenge my death, and you have not. So you will meet your death tomorrow here in Ticonderoga." So the next morning, Duncan awoke, and he went to his men, and he was very angry with them that they did not tell him that Fort Louis was Ticonderoga. However, he had kept his word, and he knew he had to take his men into battle, and that he did. He was wounded in battle, and he died 2 days later. Now, this is a true story, so if you visit Ticonderoga, you will see the area where Duncan and his men met their demise. You can also read about it in a poem from Robert Louis Stevenson. I hope you enjoyed the story as much as I have enjoyed telling you, and I thank you for being with me this evening. Donnie Ho.
Thank you, Gentle Dove, and to Buffalo Spirit for the filming. It was great to have you back with us, sharing lore stretching from the old continent to the new. Maybe some of you here tonight have visited Fort Ticonderoga and already know that tale. Next, we have a family of Frontiers campers sharing their personal heritage with a traditional Dutch song from the time of the Rendezvous.
Hello everyone, my name is Blue Eagle, and this is my brother Running Water, and my mother looks for tracks. At Frontier Rendezvous, it would be a congregation of people from all across the world who had left their homes in search of a new life and new fortune on the American frontier. The Dutch people among those who had left their homes would be singing songs such as this one. This is called Groot is de Wereld, and the lyrics will be put on screen so that you can understand it. It's a round. Groot is de wereld en lang duurt de tijd, maar klein zijn de voeten die gaan waar geen wegen gaan overal heen.
Groot is de wereld en
Groot is de wereld en
Groot is de wereld en lang duurt de tijd, maar klein zijn de voeten die gaan waar geen wegen gaan overal heen. Groot is de wereld en lang duurt de tijd, maar klein zijn de voeten die gaan waar geen wegen gaan overal heen. Groot is de wereld en lang duurt de tijd, maar klein zijn de voeten die gaan waar geen wegen gaan overal heen. Daneho.
I can't speak them, but those words sound appropriate for the woodsman and the trapper, whose feet go where no road can go, to everywhere. Next, we have Boone, the assistant major of the American Fur Company Buckskinners, with some more points of the Scout Law.
Friendly. Be a friend to everyone, even people who are very different from you. We recall from Tecumseh's speech to always give a word or a sign of salute when meeting or passing a friend, even a stranger, when in a lonely place. Courteous. Be polite to everyone and always use good manners. The way you treat others is not a measure of what you think they deserve. It's a reflection of who you are choosing to be as a person. Choose to be courteous because you deserve it. Regardless of what their choices may be, courtesy is its own reward. Through spending an evening in Barnum with all nice treats is nice too. Kind. Treat others as you want to be treated. Never harm or kill anything living without a good reason. In addition to learning to work, share tools and space with other scouts from outside our own troops, we learn the ethics of humane treatment of animals and hunter and trapper safety, and how these extend to all living things, and how we care for the world around us.
If you haven't had a chance to meet them, Boone and the Skinners are an admirably friendly bunch. And this next tale is one of kindness, in a way. Here is Gray Squirrel again, this time with the Ballad of Sam McGee.
There are strange things done in the midnight sun by the men that toil for gold. The Arctic trails have their secret tales that'll make your blood run cold. The Northern Lights have seen queer sights, but the queerest they ever did see was that night on the marge of Lake Labarge. that I cremated Sam McGee. Now, Sam McGee was from Tennessee, where the cotton blooms and blows. Why he left his home in the South to roam round the pole, God only knows. He was always cold, but the land of gold seemed to hold him like a spell. Though he'd often say in his homely way, he'd sooner live in hell. On a Christmas day, we were mushing our way over the Dawson Trail. You tuck your cold through the parka's fold, it stabbed like a driven nail. If our eyes we'd closed and the lashes froze, though sometimes we couldn't see. It wasn't much fun, but the only one to whimper was Sam McGee. And that very night, as we laid packed tight in our robes beneath the snow, and the dogs were fed and the stars o'erhead were dancing, heel and toe, he turned to me and, "Cap," says he, "I'll cash in this trip, I guess. And if I do, I'm asking that you won't refuse my last request." Well, he seemed so low that I couldn't say no, and he says with a sort of moan, "It's the cursed cold and it's got right hold till I'm chilled clean through to the bone. Yeah, it ain't being dead, it's my awful dread of the icy grave that pains. So I want you to swear that, foul or fair, you'll cremate my last remains." Well, a pal's last need is a thing to heed, so I swore I would not fail. And we started on at the streak of dawn, but God, he looked ghastly pale. He crouched on the sleigh and he raved all day of his home in Tennessee. And before nightfall, a corpse was all that was left of Sam McGee. There wasn't a breath in that land of death, but a hurried, horror-driven, with a corpse half hid that I couldn't get rid because of a promise given. It was lashed to the sleigh, but it seemed to say, "You may tax your brawn and brains, but you promised true, and now it's up to you to cremate my last remains." Well, a promise made is a debt unpaid, and the trail has its own stern code. In the days to come, though my lips were numb, in my heart how I cursed that load. And in the long, long night, by the lone firelight, with the huskies round in a ring, howled out their woes to the homeless snows. Oh God, how I loathed that thing. And every day that quiet clay seemed to heavy and heavier grow, and on I went till the dogs were spent and the grub was getting low. And the trail was bad, and I felt half bad, but I swore I'd not give in, and I'd often sing to the hateful thing, and it hearkened with a grin. Till I came to the marge of Lake Labarge, and a derelict there lay. It was jammed in the ice, but I saw in the thrice it was called the Alice May. And I looked at it, and I thought a bit, and I looked at my frozen chum. "Then here," says I with a sudden cry, "is my crematorium." Some planks I tore from the cabin floor, and I lit the boiler fire. Some coal I found that was lying around, and I heaped the fuel high. The flames just soared and the furnace roared. Such a blaze you never did see. And then I burrowed a hole in the glowing coal, and I stuffed in Sam McGee. Then I made a hike, for I didn't like to hear him sizzle so. And the heavens scowled, and the huskies howled, and the wind began to blow. It was icy cold, a hot sweat rolled down my cheeks, and I don't know why. And the greasy smoke in an inky cloak went streaking down the sky. I do not know how long in the snow I wrestled with grisly fear, but the stars came out and they danced about, ere again I ventured near. I was sick with dread, but I bravely said, "I'll just take a peek inside. I guess he's cooked, and it's time I looked." And the door I opened wide. And there sat Sam, looking cool and calm, in the heart of the furnace roar. He wore a smile you could see a mile, and he said, "Please close that door. It's fine in here, but I greatly fear you'll let in the cold and storm. And since I left Plumtree down in Tennessee, this is the first time I've been warm." There are strange things done in the midnight sun by the men that toil for gold. The Arctic trails have their secret tales that'll make your blood run cold. The Northern Lights have seen queer sights, but the queerest they ever did see was that night on the marge of Lake Labarge that I cremated Sam McGee.
It's 90 degrees here today in Seattle, and that was before I started the fire. but that story always makes my blood run cold. We heard that Sparrowhawk and family have been to Fort Ticonderoga, but I want to know if anybody on on the live stream has been to Lake LaBarge in the Yukon. Type that one in if you've been there. Now, we have another treat with a returning major of the Rocky Mountain Fur Company, Coyote, to tell us one of his camp favorite stories about Turtle's great race with Bear.
It was an early winter, cold enough to make ice on all the lakes and ponds, and Bear, who had not yet learned in those days that it was wiser to sleep through the white season, grumbled as he walked through the forest. Perhaps he was remembering a trick another animal had played on him, or perhaps he was just not in a good mood. It happened that he came to the edge of a great pond, and there he saw Turtle with his head sticking out of a hole in the ice. "Ah! What are you looking at, slow one?" growled Bear. Turtle looked at Bear. "Why do you call me slow?" he asked. "Because you are the slowest of the animals. If I were to race you, I would leave you far behind." Ah, perhaps Bear had not heard of Turtle's great race with Beaver, or perhaps Bear had forgotten that Turtle, like Coyote, is an animal whose greatest speed is in his wits. "Let us race to see who is the swiftest," said Turtle. "All right," said Bear. "Where will we race?" "We'll race here, at this pond," said Turtle, "and the race will be tomorrow morning, when the sun is exactly the width of one hand above the horizon. You will run along the banks of the pond, and I will swim in the water," said Turtle. "How can that be?" snarled Bear. "The pond is covered in ice." "It will be this way," said Turtle. "I will make holes in the ice along the edge of the pond, and I will swim in the water beneath the ice, going from hole to hole. And each hole I come to, I will stop and stick my head out of that hole so that you may see where I am." "Agreed," said Bear. "Tomorrow we will race." Early the next morning, many of the animals had gathered to watch the great race. They lined the banks of the pond, and they watched Bear as he jumped up and down and rolled in the snow to make himself ready. And then, when the sun was one hand's width in the sky, Turtle popped his head out of a hole in the ice at the starting line. "Here I am, Bear," said Turtle. "I am ready." Bear hurried to the starting line, and when the signal was given, he rushed forward. Snow flew from his feet, and his breath made great white clouds above his head. Turtle's head slowly disappeared down the first hole, and in almost no time at all appeared from the second hole, far ahead of Bear. "Bear! Here I am!" shouted Turtle. "Catch up to me!" Bear could not believe what he was seeing, so he began to run even faster. Turtle's head slowly disappeared down that hole and reappeared almost immediately in the second hole, the next hole, far ahead of Bear. "Bear! Here I am!" shouted Turtle. "Catch up to me!" Now Bear began to run in earnest. His sides were puffing in and out, and his eyes were becoming bloodshot, but it was no use. Each time, long before Bear would reach each of the holes, the ugly green head of Turtle would pop out of it and call for him to catch up. When Bear finally reached the finish line, he was barely able to crawl. Turtle was already there waiting for him, surrounded by all the other animals. Bear had lost the race. He would drag himself home in disgrace, and when he got home, he went to bed immediately, and he did not awaken until the warm breath of spring returned to the forest. After Bear and all the other animals left the pond, Turtle tapped on the ice with one long claw. At his signal, a dozen green turtle eggs popped out of the holes in the ice along the edge of the pond. They were Turtle's brothers and cousins, and each one looked exactly like Turtle himself. "My relatives," said Turtle. "Today we have shown Bear that it does not pay to call other people names. We have taught him a good lesson. And more importantly, we have shown all the other animals that turtles are not the slowest of the animals. Turtle smiled, and a dozen other turtles, just like him, smiled back. Doneho.
Well, fast and clever aren't technically points of the Scout Law, but maybe you'd consider one of those if we added a 13th point. Thanks for sharing that story with us, Coyote, and to Wandering Spirit for the technical assistance. It was wonderful to have you with us. Here, with some more insights into the Scout Law, is Finch, the Assistant Major of the Rocky Mountain Fur Company Trappers.
Obedient. The best leaders are the ones who've learned to follow first. The scout who takes the initiative, who does what he's told, who pulls his team forward behind him, he, while being a subordinate, is displaying leadership. The ones who follow, the ones who are dependable and can get things done, are the best leaders. Be the example, be obedient, and be a good scout. Cheerful. When Frontiers Camp staff looks at the pool of scouts that have completed the 4-year program to determine who their new lieutenants are going to be for the next year, the ones that stand out to us are the cheerful ones, the ones that want to be there, the ones that are invested in driving the program forward and making it better, contributing their part. If you're doing your time, putting in your 4 years, and are glad it's over once it's over, you probably won't be asked back. But if you want to continue coming to Frontiers Camp, if you really show it, we'll have you back. We will have you back. So please, be cheerful and come with us. Thrifty. Your time on the frontier is limited. Your resources on the frontier are even more limited. Use what you can while you can and make the most of it. Because at the end of the day, you only have 24 hours in a day, and you only have so much time and so much resources to use. Use it wisely, because if you squander it, you will be lost.
Finch takes the Scout Law very seriously and provides strong guidance and example to the trappers, as well as the rest of camp. And from his fitness challenges, you can tell he also knows how to keep himself physically strong. We have had a busy summer, albeit mostly from afar. We want to share with you some final images of this past summer and more images of what we do best in person to whet your appetite for 2021. Here's Program Director Littletree with a recap.
Good evening, my friends and family. Despite not being able to hold our regular rendezvous at Mount Norris, we've had 7 great weeks of fitness challenges, skills demonstrations, Zoom sessions, and fellowship during our first ever remote rendezvous. It's been great to see the Frontiers Camp staff crew, scouts returning to the rendezvous, and some new faces in a time when contact is so limited. Keeping us motivated and our bodies sharp this summer, Finch showed us 7 low-tech exercises that we could follow along with. Thank you, Finch, for your dedication to our physical fitness, despite not being in the game fields at Mount Norris. For the skills demonstration portion of our remote rendezvous, weekly videos created by our own staff crew taught us skills that people in the frontier relied upon to survive in the wilderness. Each week, our staff crew instructors hosted a live Zoom session to expand on the skills demonstration videos and teach more advanced skills. And at the end of each week, scouts had the chance to demonstrate their newly practiced skills and upload them to our Frontiers Camp staff crew instructors to complete various merit badge and rank advancement requirements. Starting off our 7-week series, Finch and Littlebuck taught us about some knots and lashings, like the constrictor hitch and the diagonal lashing, and showed us how to use them to create useful camp structures like a sawhorse. Pontiac and Spotted Tail demonstrated the ins and outs of open fire Dutch oven cooking, and almost more importantly, Dutch oven cleaning. They showed us how to recreate a Frontiers Camp classic, Chili Conquistador. We also got to watch Pontiac as he flipped over a Dutch oven dessert and surprised us with an awesome looking pineapple upside down cake. Sitting Goat and Channer sat at their blankets and taught us how to count and complete a trade using Native American Sign Language, a necessary skill on both the American frontier and at Frontiers Camp. Firefox and Eagle Eyes encountered backyard critters while showing us how to set up an emergency shelter using a tarp and a life-saving woggle. Eagle Eyes was kind enough to dive into details on how to tie your very own woggle. You can check the video out still. To better understand the skies above, Clumsy Links taught us the importance of looking up, about the various types of clouds, and what clouds can mean for advancing weather. Under fairer skies, King Mackerel and Big Chickadee spent time out on the water and the beach to teach us about several types of freshwater and saltwater fishing, including important fishing knots. And last week, Dark Phoenix and Longwalker demonstrated how to use a piece of paper, a pencil, and a compass to create a simple orienteering course at a local park. It's a great way to practice your compass and navigation skills on your own. All the physical challenge and skills demonstration videos mentioned, created by our staff crew, are still posted on the Frontiers Camp website and can be watched. This summer, for some fellowship and to bring a piece of Frontiers Camp home with us, we hosted 3 Saturday live meal circles on Zoom, where scouts and staff crew, along with their families, joined together online to eat food and enjoy conversation. Thank you to Snowy Owl, Pontiac, Ishmael, and Pine Tree for hosting our live meal circles, and to all those scouts and families that joined us. It was great to try Frontiers Camp recipes at home and to see friends and family together, even if from afar. I'd like to take a second to thank all those scouts who participated in our remote rendezvous this summer. You all are the reason our staff crews stepped out of their more low-tech comfort zones to bring you a 21st century rendezvous. I'd also like to take a second to thank all the staff crew and everyone that supported them for creating the awesome videos we've watched and learned from this summer. To wrap up our remote rendezvous, we'd like to present scenes from Frontiers Camps of summers past, while you hear a free dance medley recorded by members of our staff crew on our camp drum. Rawhide drums are probably the most notable Native American instrument, used traditionally for many spiritual purposes, but also for fellowship and entertainment. At Frontiers Camp, we use our camp drum to gather for evening fires, to tell stories, and to dance and compete. A free dance begins with one or just a few dancers who dance to the drum beat and move around the circle, tapping in people from the circle to join them. And the dancing continues until the drumming stops. The recording you are about to hear consists of 4 different songs played at Frontiers Camp. The first 2 songs, Anandanje and Habyet Nevelia, are songs that come from a camp that is at the root of Frontiers Camp, when themes were gleaned from Plains cultures. The third song, brought to us by Wolf Mother, is Bapase, a traditional song with origins from what is now Canada, that sings about the woodpecker who is calling all day long. The final song is Aya, another song that comes from Frontiers Camp's origins, whose beat challenges the skill of dancers as it gets faster and faster. It was great to see you all this summer, and I really can't wait to see you again in person at our next rendezvous.
Good job if you can stop on that final beat. One of the traditions we have at camp is a bit more contemporary in nature. Some of you may know that every year during the Rendezvous, Little Tree celebrates his birthday with us. We didn't get to share it with him this year in person, so I wanted to make sure and wish him a happy belated one with a virtual cupcake made by Weaver of Wisdom. She tells me the bottom is strawberry in honor of the wild strawberries on the field during the Triangle game. And on that note, this very day happens to be former camp director Skunktail's birthday. Happy birthday to you both, and any other summer birthdays. We've had a lot of ways to participate, and we thought that it would be a great way to commemorate our home away from camp summer with a patch. So be ye scout or be ye staff crew, we have a way to get a patch to you. Scouts, if you've joined us for a live event, either a Wednesday skill session or Saturday meal circle, or uploaded a video or photos of your take on one of our skill themes, then you will get a patch for free. Staff crew, keep an eye out in your email for pre-order payment options. We will make a one-time order at the end of August, so don't delay in getting in your participation or request. And now, the last 3 points of the Scout Law from Northern Squirrel, the Assistant Major of the Northwest Company Voyageurs.
Brave. Face difficult situations even when you feel afraid. Do what you think is right despite what others might be doing or saying. Our games and challenges at Frontiers Camp provide plenty of opportunities to test your mettle, but sometimes bravery can be trying a dangerous or new thing, black powder or blacksmithing, throwing a tomahawk, or sharing a teepee with a bunch of new brigade mates. Clean. Keep your body and mind fit, your home and community clean. Frontiers Camp provides many opportunities to get dirty, making the virtue of cleanliness even more important. This includes staying physically clean and also clean in word and deed, so that your conscience may be clean. Reverent. Frontier folk are fiercely independent, each keeping their own religious and spiritual observances. At Frontiers Camp, many of our shared moments of reverence are moments when each can worship in our own way. Every meal begins with a quiet moment of individual reflection as one person entreats, spirit partake. And as a community, Frontiers Camp joins together for our Thanksgiving ceremony, uniting hearts and voices in gratitude for our natural world. Even competing in games is an act of reverence, striving to best your opponent while always recognizing their unique and precious spirit.
Thanks, Northern Squirrel. We do our best to emulate and live the Scout Oath and Law in many meaningful ways during our time at camp. With this group, as we've said before, family runs deep. Some of us who came as scouts are still here to see our own children get to experience the program. We have had 3 generations of Dull Knife's family over the years. You may have seen my daughter, Dancing Spirit, building our first remote fire by flint and steel. She has attended camp with us since she was 3 months old, and in her 11th year, with a timely change in BSA policy, she finally got to be a woodsman. The newest member of our family to experience camp as a second generation by remote participation so far is More Mountains, here with his dad, Chanter Douglas. We all take on a camp name at our camp, and these can be deeply meaningful. Dancing Spirit's name comes from the Cree's belief that the Northern Lights, or Aurora Borealis, are the spirits of their ancestors dancing in the night sky. As for More Mountains, he has overcome a towering range of obstacles just to survive, even if his little legs and lungs still need to grow stronger before tackling the towering Rocky Mountains near his home in Colorado. Tonight, Chanter and I will tell you the sign story that inspired More Mountains' name.
Question. You want make a sign story? Yes. Do you want the story of More Mountains? Yes. That's a good story. in the moon when the cherries come ripe. The chief of the village tells all of the young in the camp to go out and to climb the distant mountain. And to bring back what they find there. The first little boy went out, and he went across the great meadow. And he arrived at the river. The little boy had short legs, and the river was deep. And he took a small river rock, and he brought it back to his village. The chief said, "This is good. I see that you arrived at the river. Maybe next year your legs will be longer, and you will be able to swim across." The second girl was a bit bigger, and she went out across the great meadow, and she was able to swim across. And she arrived at the edge of the forest, where she became tired. She saw the small berries, the small red berries with thorns, raspberries. And she took those berries back to her village. The chief said, "This is good. I see that you made it to the forest. Maybe next year you will go into the forest." The third boy, a bit bigger, he went across the meadow and he swam the river. And he went among the trees in the forest. But he became hungry. And he took a leaf from the tree which makes taste good, maple, the maple tree. And he returned to the village. The chief said, "This is good. You will begin to climb. Maybe next year you will go higher." The fourth girl went out, and she went across the great meadow and swam the big river and went among the trees and began to climb and arrived at where all the trees become spruces. But the day grew long and the sun began to set. And so the girl took a bough from the spruce and returned to her village. The chief said, "This is good. You have done strong climbing, and you became near to the top of the mountain. I know that next year you will arrive there." The fifth big boy went out and across the meadow and swam the river. He went among the trees in the forest and through the spruces to above where all the trees grow. And the boy climbed higher until he reached the top of the mountain. And he looked all around. And then he returned to his camp. The chief said, "I can see from your smile that you have made it to the top of the mountain. Your spirit is like fire. It's glowing. Tell me, what did you see when you arrived there?" And the boy said, "More mountains. Daneho."
The telling of stories provides opportunities to be both entertained and to think about what it might mean to you personally. There is no right or wrong interpretation, and we learn about and respect each other by discussing our own understandings. Recently, our staff crew had some great conversations about the meaning of this story to each of us. Some heard it first in the context of a blue and gold banquet or perhaps an Eagle Scout Court of Honor, and it has the ring of advancement and achievement. We can certainly see that connection, and we want to recognize 2 new Eagle Scouts in our ranks, Eagle Eyes and Black Hawk, who we hope have seen that there are still many more mountains to climb as they enrich their lives and those around them. To others, it represents the joy, excitement, or contentment of being fully present and finding something of value wherever you may find yourself along the trail or off it. As Frontiers Camp family, you've all heard our camp song. Tonight, we want to share with you some of the moments and people you may or may not have seen in the production of this summer's activities, as a way of acknowledging them for helping to keep us on track, providing the level of quality and great program we have become known for, and bringing about, as best we could, some of our skills and passions of older times in a very modern way. It has been an incredible effort, and on behalf of our whole staff crew, I am sincerely grateful for all their efforts. Please feel free to join in and sing with us from home, and to add your thanks in the chat as well.
As the sun today begins to set, I think back to this morning's call. Of all my duties sought and done, and comrades made with one and all. And here I stand, a mountain man, full of memories known to none but us. So come with me to the fire ring, Daneho, I say with all my friends. So come with me to the fire ring, and gather ash from the years gone by. We'll make the signs at the long day's end, Daneho, I say with all my friends. A rendezvous has come to pass, bringing homes together from far off lands, sharing skills and passions of older times, learning song and dance of distant climes. And now we've found a place we love, full of family, friends, and So come with me to the firing. Dane-ho, I say with all my friends. So come with me to the firing and gather ash from the years gone by. We'll make the signs for the long day's end. Dane-ho, I say with all my friends.
So many hands, heads, and hearts came together to make this happen. Thanks to you all one more time, and especially thanks to White Bear, Dancing Spirit, and Weaver of Wisdom for putting up with me in our little house during all of this. And from his lodge in the southern reaches of the Appalachian Mountains, his Dull Knife, proprietor of the Bar None, with another Scoutmaster's Minute.
Welcome to my lodge. Members of the Rendezvous, circle around my fire. Traders, trappers, hunters, Indians, and our special guests from the East, men of the cloth. You are all welcome. I have a short story for you tonight. Many of you have heard it before. And if so, and you wish to join in, please do so. But before we begin, we need to pay homage and give thanks to our Father's Father for the bounty of the hunt, the deer, the bear, the bison, the antelope, for the animals that filled our traps, the beaver, the lynx, the muskrat, the fox, to the substance items the traders brought, the needed goods, the traps, the flints, the powder, the balls, the flour, the salt, the sugar. The story for tonight is about 4 people. Their names were everybody, somebody, anybody, and nobody. There was a very important job that just had to be done. Everybody was asked to do it. Everybody knew somebody would do it. Anybody could do it. But nobody did it. Somebody got very angry about that because it was everybody's job. And everybody thought anybody could do it. But nobody thought everybody would not do it. It ended up that everybody blamed somebody because nobody did what anybody could have done. Enjoy our fire tonight.
Thanks, Dull Knife. We all get to imagine who we want to be in that situation and decide if we are going to be somebody, anybody, everybody, or nobody on a daily basis. And while we are all hopefully safe in our homes tonight, we want to thank those who have decided to step up and get things done. First responders, essential workers, medical personnel, and others that have risked themselves to allow us to stay safe and healthy during this global pandemic. At the end of a sun-scorched and rain-soaked week at Mount Norris, we recall these final words. The days of the hunt are ended. Never again will we meet in this circle, with this group, or in this way. While these times have been trying, we will look back fondly to remember the efforts we made and the enjoyment we had. It is unique to this circle that we have the opportunity to come back and share in many of the experiences again through recordings, and we hope that you will, as a way to prepare for seeing each other in person when we next meet. Now for me, I'm going to go back to fixing my boat so that the trusty bateau and I can head upstream. I've got my birch bark, I've got my spruce root, and my pitch pot is finally warmed up. But before that, we always end our Frontiers campfires with the signs. In many cultures, a word of salute or farewell is given to share good wishes until we meet again. In our frontier camp culture, we use these Native American signs with deep respect for their origins and for those to whom we convey these wishes. Tonight, we have videos from Vermont, New Hampshire, Colorado, and Washington, wishing you all well until our next rendezvous, wherever and whenever that might be. Join us as we continue this custom from all over the continent, and we hope to see some of you after at the post-fire Zoom fellowship. You'll find that link in the chat. Last, we hope to see you again in person in 2021. Be safe, be well. Good night and joy be to you all.
May the great mystery make sunrise in your heart.